Kamala Harris has now sat down to do another major interview, this time with MSNBC, speaking directly on her economic policy agenda. And I love covering these and just reminiscing in the cope, as a few short weeks ago, MAGA swore that she wouldn't do any of these, and she was far too scared to lay out her policy agenda and do unscripted interviews because she can't talk without a teleprompter, kind of just recycling their talking points. And now obviously they have to switch their narrative to move the goalposts rather than concede they were wrong, which kind of gives the game away as to what they're really doing here. But let's see what Kamala was talking about with MSNBC.
So first of all, when it relates to anybody making less than $400,000 a year, your taxes will not go up. Your taxes will not go up. And in fact, under my plan, taxes for 100 million Americans will actually be cut, including $6,000 a year for young couples for the first year of their child's life in a tax cut, a tax credit, essentially, by expansion of the child tax credit. And why is that? Because during the first year of a young couple, of a person's child's life, they're going to need help buying a crib, buying a car seat. And we all benefit when they're actually able to do what they naturally want to do to take care of their child.
Her plan to lower taxes for middle-class families being funded through raising the corporate tax rate and applying a wealth tax on those with at least $100 million in assets yearly might be my favorite of her agenda. You know, that redistribution of the wealth. Call me mommy, brother. I apologize. But people like Trump, who follow Trump, MAGA, will pretend it's in the nature of tax cuts that they have to be skewed to benefit the rich, but that's just not true, and her tax plan shows that. Trump specifically skewed 83% of his tax cuts towards the richest people in the country. The AMT, pass-through income, corporate tax cuts. These are things like this that directly only apply to those in the top 10, top 1%. And you can instead do this in a way that specifically benefits the middle and lower income brackets. One way is just setting income limits on the tax cuts. You can also specifically target the working class through earned income tax credits that, again, disproportionately would go to the middle class. You can do tax cuts that aren't tied with income, that are a flat rate of sorts, like her child tax credit, that isn't bigger if you make more income, that you don't have to make a certain amount of income to qualify for. This is how you lower taxes for those who need it the most. And again, she plans to fund it by taxing the wealthy, those who should pay their fair share, raising the corporate tax rate by 7%. This is a beautiful thing.
I am never going to apologize for going after companies and corporations that take advantage of the desperation of the American people. And as Attorney General, I saw this happen. In the midst of an emergency, whether it be an extreme weather event or even the pandemic, we saw it, where those few companies, not the majority, not most, but those few companies that would take advantage of the desperation of people and jack up prices. Yeah, I'm going to go after them. Yes, I'm going to go after them. And that is part of a much more comprehensive plan on what we can do to bring down the cost of living, including housing, including the everyday needs of the American people.
And this is one of the biggest contrasts between her and Trump economically. While Trump wants to benefit the corporate CEOs and their investors and shareholders, Kamala wants to benefit the people who built the buildings for those corporations, who work inside of them, the janitors that clean their floors. And she shouldn't apologize. You should never apologize for going after corporations who need to be put in check, for taking advantage of the American people at any turn they can. We know that they pass through at least 25% more than what their prices have rose from the pandemic onto their consumers. This is gross. This is while people are still trying to recover from the pandemic themselves. Price gouging shouldn't be allowed. And for Republicans to complain about the grocery prices, for it to then come out that corporations are price gouging, and them to then call the measures to prevent corporations from doing so communism, again, just kind of gives the game away about who they care about. They don't care about the middle and working class families that this is affecting. They just want to pander for those votes, but they really need these corporations to benefit because that is their donor base. Kamala, however, will stop price gouging. She will make things more affordable while also taxing these corporations their fair share to give more breaks to the working class who needs them, further alleviating the financial stress that people are still feeling from the pandemic. Even though, again, we have recovered faster than any other country in the world, people are still feeling the effects, and only one person has a plan to help that, right? The middle class should not be paying the brunt of taxes like they would be under Trump's plan. The middle class should not have their prices risen by almost as much as $4,000 like will happen through Trump's tariffs plan. They instead should be able to afford their livelihood and get tax cuts for working.
So part of the challenge, and I don't disagree that it's a challenge, got to earn the vote of everybody, is reminding people of fact, regardless of what somebody says in a small rally somewhere. And I think that's really important. And that's part of what I'm doing in this campaign, is to remind people, just like here in Pittsburgh, of the reality of who has stood with union labor, who stands for American manufacturing, who stands for American jobs.
This is wonderfully put. Under Trump, we saw labor movements completely stall. We saw him systemically erode away the power that unions have. While under Biden-Harris, we saw the labor movement get win after win. UAW, Kaiser Permanente, Starbucks, SAG-AFTRA. We saw the NLRB strengthened where Trump tried to weaken it at every step, appointing corporate lawyers, while Biden came in and appointed pro-union members to the board. We saw card check certifications gain strength. We saw them repeatedly side with unions against these corporations that were really trying to go after them in vindictive ways. Biden walked the picket line with workers, while Trump did a presser at a non-union corporation, where Trump also has this long history of union busting. Trump, in an Elon interview, praised him for firing workers who want to unionize and said he would need someone like that in his government. What we get with Trump is clear. It's anti-labor, anti-worker, pro-corporate chokehold on the market. And for that to continue, where Kamala will continue the surprising surge of the labor movement that we've seen in the last 4 years.
For people who want to buy a home, yes, getting a $25,000 kicker would be great. But it's not just affording a home. We don't have enough in this country.
You're absolutely right.
And one of the main problems are regulations and rules, strict rules at a local level. How does the federal government cut through all that red tape and get down to, the suburbs of Pittsburgh and say, we're going to have to build some affordable housing here? How do you connect the two?
So you're absolutely right. So across our country, people rightly are concerned about the cost of housing. So it's home ownership, to your point. We need more supply. That is, without any question, part of the solution. Creating more supply under my plan includes creating tax incentives to work with the private sector and home builders. Part of my goal and the plan would be to create 3 million new housing units for rent and for ownership by the end of my first term. It includes also what we must do to cut red tape. You're absolutely right. It takes far too long and there's too much bureaucracy.
And to clarify, just to start, Trump has no housing plan. Trump doesn't even have concepts of a housing plan. He just doesn't talk about it at all. And when he's forced to, he just alludes to tariffs, something that will raise prices for American families, because that's somehow going to help the housing crisis. When Minnesota did exactly what Kamala is talking about here, housing prices fell and home ownership rose. A $25,000 tax break for buying a home is not only a major way to incentivize people to do it, but to also help them be able to achieve it, something that many people strive for and for too long haven't been able to achieve. And again, it's pretty simple economics about how it works out. When you raise the supply, prices will go down. That's why incentivizing home building specifically for affordable family homes, while also removing the red tape that makes it harder to achieve this goal, is absolutely going to firsthand tackle the housing crisis in America that has long been exacerbated, overlooked, and ignored, especially by Donald Trump. If you enjoyed this video, we're Social Society. We're a commentary channel influenced by politics, society, and the economy. We are pretty left-leaning on this channel, but we're open to our right-wingers as well. The biggest thing here is having conversations that get everyone to the bottom of the truth. If that sounds like something that can interest you, consider smashing that subscribe button, leaving us a like, or even commenting on this video. We even have memberships available as low as $3 if you'd like to support, because the only way we become a society is together.